Salma's grandfather tells her that people have families so that they don't die alone. As Salma's parents and grandmother have died, after he dies, Salma will become alone. He tells Salma to start a family and keep them safe. Not long after that, Kazuya's grandfather dies and Salma ends up alone. Facing a dilemma and wondering what to do, Alfred Kingdom's king and his ministers decide to summon a hero. They start the procedure, activate a big summoning circle covering the kingdom, and end up summoning Salma, who was at a library at that moment. They bring Salma to the king, who thanks him for answering their call. But Salma is annoyed as he didn't answer anything and got dragged into this world, but he decides to listen to what they have to say before getting angry. 10 years ago, monsters from the demon world invaded Landia, causing a war. Some nations united to fight, but eventually took 1/3 of the continent, forming the demon lord's domain. As the battle line expanded, the rest of the nations managed to maintain their ground. Salma hopes they don't intend to make him fight the monsters, but he learns that they intend to send him to the Grand Chaos Empire instead of the financial aid they had requested. Since the Grand Chaos Empire shares a large border with the Demon Lord's domain, they are one of the main armies that fight the demons and have requested financial support from those that do not share borders with the demons. The Elfriden Kingdom faces financial difficulties due to refugees fleeing the northern part. However, a special clause allows them to summon a hero and send him instead. Salma questions if the Empire will make more requests, and the Prime Minister believes they will continue requesting as long as monster attacks occur. The last time a hero was summoned was 500 years ago, and summoning a hero is rare. Salma asks if they can send him now, considering his importance. Salma then wishes to see the finances of the kingdom improve to strengthen the nation and reject the imperial demands. Salma, the Prime Minister, Marx, and the King, Albert Elfriden, spent 3 days reviewing the finances. After which, Salma is surprised to hear the king abdicate the throne to give it to him and announce an engagement between him and his daughter, Licia Elfriden. The news reaches the 3 dukes that lead the kingdom's armed forces, Castor Vargas, Excel Walter, and Jorg Carmine, who are surprised. Licia rushes to return home, thinking the throne is usurped, but learns that Albert has abdicated himself as he believes Salma is more fit to rule the kingdom. Albert informs her that it's up to her if she will marry Salma, but she should at least meet him first. Licia goes to Salma, who saw her as fresh manpower, and, learning she can read, he wants her to help out, but Licia reveals she is the princess and wonders how he took the throne. Salma explains that Albert just gave it to him, and all he was trying to do was look after his safety. After looking at the finances, Salma believed they might make him oversee the financial management but not take over the throne. Salma reveals that there is no need for them to marry and that he intends to give up the throne to her in a few years after he brings the country's finances back on track. Licia wonders if he can really fix the finances in a few years and about the current situation with the financial aid, but Salma states he has already secured the money by selling the national treasures. He explains that he kept those that have high historic or cultural value and split the items into 3 categories, those with historic or cultural value, which will be more beneficial to be displayed in a museum, those with no historic or cultural value that he sold, and the remaining magical items, which felt like weapons, and he decided not to sell them. Excel Walter decides to send Canaria to check how capable the new king is. Salma intends to pay the empire on the last possible day. Licia wonders why not keep the money and distribute it to the military as he intends to strengthen the country. However, Salma explains that they need time. Strengthening their military won't solve the food shortage and refugee issues, and eventually they will lose the support of the people and outside forces may instigate an uprising. Salma is introduced to a small statue that can tell the nature of magic and learns its potential use. Licia, who enters Salma's office, notices pens moving independently and writing documents, which is Salma's magic. He explains that his living poltergeists allow him to copy his consciousness into objects and freely control them, enabling him to deal with paperwork faster. Salma and Licia work together to find untapped money for the empire, but they struggle to find enough capital and manpower. Salma takes Licia to a field full of white cotton flowers, which Salma believes is the reason for the country's food shortage. Northern countries produced a lot of cotton, but as the war started and the Demon Lord's domain expanded, their production plummeted. As a result, the purchase price increased and farmers stopped growing food and started growing cotton. The supply grew larger than the demand, and Salma wants Licia to know this as she will lead the country. Salma proposes limiting the planting of commercial crops and bringing back food crop fields, focusing on soybeans and potatoes. As agricultural reforms don't happen quickly, Salma plans to buy all food and sell it to people for cheaper. He wants to compensate the difference with something that can be exported. Salma uses Cow's words and broadcasts to recruit new people, stating that if someone possesses an aptitude, they will make use of it. He states that the former king was a great ruler for peaceful times, but in the current situation, they need a survivor who is tenacious and chosen by the former king. Salma will decide if he needs their talent or not, regardless of others' opinions. If they demonstrate their talent is unequaled in the kingdom, he will issue a certificate of peerlessness and grant them a monetary reward. People are also allowed to recommend others and receive 30% of their monetary reward. As the broadcast ends, people from different parts of the kingdom pack their bags and leave towards the capital. Salma explains that due to some strange power imbued in heroes, he is able to speak and understand the language of this world, allowing him even to write and read in it, which is also the only language in that world. Salma's auto-translate works only on him and doesn't translate recordings from his phone as the people hear them as some foreign language. Licia wonders if Salma will remain in their world if she becomes his family. Her maid, Serena, informs her that there will be a ceremony about the new recruits and Licia needs to be present. Salma uses his living poltergeist to learn about dark elves and their fighting arts. Aisha Udgard, a warrior, refuses to bow to Salma as he is the one that called them. Salma introduces Aisha Udgard, who has remarkable talent in fighting arts and wishes Salma to teach them about thinning the god-protected forests. She asks Salma to teach them how to maintain a woodland by cutting down trees to prevent overgrowth and damage to the soil. Aisha pledges lifelong loyalty to Salma and vows to fight and die by his command. Juna Dama, with her beauty and singing voice, is introduced by Marx. She is asked if she can sing a song that will energize the nation. Salma plays a song from his world, even though she doesn't know the language. Juna wishes to learn more songs from Salma's world. Pancho Panicotta, another person with exceptional eating skills, is nominated by Hakuya Quanman, who has an intellect and knowledge unrivaled in the kingdom. Salma offers him a job as a librarian in the castle library, which would give him access to books available only to librarians. Hakuya initially rejected this offer but later changed his mind, believing it was a test for his future leadership. Hakuya later becomes the Prime Minister in Black. Salma recognizes Hakuya's talent and installs him as his right-hand man. Tamo Inui, a mystic wolf with unusual talent, is brought to the stables to converse with birds and beasts. After learning about the mystic wolves and discovering they don't live in Elfriden, Salma suspects she may be a refugee. Tamo whispers something into Salma's ear, shaking him up. He confirms it is not known to anyone else outside of Tamo's mother. Salma returns to his throne and he thanks the new recruits and hopes they will help revive the kingdom. Salma gathers Tamo, Licia, Marx, and Ludwin, who confirm they couldn't hear what Tamo told him. They discuss Tamo's story of talking with a demon, who is believed to have the intelligence of an animal. These monsters work in groups, use weapons and magic, and behave almost like people. They are called demons by humans, but they speak a language that cannot be understood. Tamo reveals that he meets a demon with a dog face and yells for help. The demon is surprised to understand her and tells her to run. Salma believes that only a few demons can communicate with them, but if they can, they could change their situation. Licia wonders if he plans to negotiate with them to get their land back. Salma believes mankind is currently united and fighting the demons, but if people can communicate with them, they could forge alliances with them. Salma and the rest agree to keep this secret, and Salma wishes to safeguard Tamo as she is more important than him and could turn the tide of relations between mankind and demons. Mark suggests they welcome her as royalty and that Salma could adopt her. However, since he isn't married, this is not possible. Salma suggests the previous king adopt her, and Marx and Licia welcome that idea. Tamo already has a family, and Salma assures her that if she is adopted, her family will become his family, and they will be able to live in the castle. Salma asks Marx to wait before announcing it, and Salma suggests putting her in charge of the horses that pull Salma's carriage. Salma visits Licia's room to relax and learns about Tamo's well-being. Licia's mother takes a liking to her and spends a lot of time with Tamo. Salma learns about Pancho's return and takes Licia to meet him. Pancho reports that he has gathered all the food he needs. Licia recognizes his sack as the hero's sack, as it can hold more than it seems and is less prone to spoilage. Salma announces the king's brilliant lunch using the broadcast system. He apologizes for the country's food shortage and announces a plan to increase food production. The broadcast aims to help resolve the food shortage by introducing unfamiliar foods and methods for preparing them. Salma has Licia, Aisha, and Tamo taste the dishes, including an octopus, burdock roots, and locusts. Licia and Aisha find the octopus delicious, while Tamo enjoys the burdock roots. Salma prepares both salty and sweet versions, which everyone enjoys. Pancho reveals the third dish, bean boiled locusts, which reminds Tamo of his home. Salma is surprised to learn that the fermented bean product is miso and the mash water is soy sauce. Salma cries of joy as it reminds him of his homeland and the flavors he loves. They proceed with the next dish, which is also surprising everyone. Pancho presents a dish made from gelatin to everyone. Aisha wonders if the gelatin is dead, and Pancho confirms this. He explains that cutting the membrane of a gelatin results in its body fluids coming out. He learns a trick to do this, which he learned from a small tribe. If you hit the gelatin with a stick hard enough, but don't break the membrane, you can destroy the nucleus in it and kill it. After losing its nucleus, the gelatin loses its liquidity over time. As Poncho finishes preparing the food, Salma notices it looks like udon. Hearing that, the girls decide to let Salma try it first, and he finds it quite good and more similar to kudzu noodles than udon. One by one, the girls also decide to try it and end up liking it as well. Juna announces the end of today's program, but Salma wishes there was no demand again. A week passes and there is big demand for more of the cooking show, causing Salma to comment they need to continue. Marx wishes to speak with Salma about something important. Marx informs Salma that he wishes to step away from being a prime minister and trust in Salma's talent. He recommends Hakuya to take over his position, and Salma accepts, but the formal appointment will be done another day. Marx relaxes, commenting that he will take his retirement allowance, purchase a cottage in the country, and enjoy his remaining years. Salma states that there are many things he isn't aware of in this world and wishes Marx to continue helping him out. Hakuya suggests taking Salma to take some time off so that his followers can see he is actually taking a break. Salma goes to Aisha and Lycia and sees them training. As they both launch big attacks, Salma yells them to stop as they could damage the castle. They discuss a date around the castle and take Aisha as guard to be safe. Salma finds the uniform fitting Lycia, but not Aisha, as he imagines dark elves looking differently. As they take the carriage to town, Salma introduces himself as Kazuya, an old friend of Juna. They have gel and udon, and Juna explains that there is big demand for it and that they have not yet recovered from the food shortage. Lycia feels that Salma is treating Juna differently from the rest, and she gets nervous talking to a beautiful girl. Aisha wonders if her appetite is the reason Salma doesn't want her in his bed. Salma states that polygamy is recognized in the kingdom, and even women can have multiple husbands. Salma hasn't seen other queen consorts, except Lycia's mother, who used to hold royal power as she was the daughter of the previous king. Since Lycia is the only one pretender for the throne, she still would have to take a husband. As the circumstances are different, Salma can take another wife, and while she won't be excited for it, she is willing to allow aid including her. At Juna's cafe, Salma sees a mystic wolf girl raising her voice, but she is corrected, it's a mystic fox. They see her talking with Halbert Magna, the oldest heir to the prestigious Magna family. Halbert states that he must go to see Jorg Carmine, as if there will be war, it's his chance to get ahead in the world. Halbert's father served under Jorg, but Halbert believes he is a coward and is afraid to get caught in the fighting. Teed states that his father understands the situation, and Jorg's refusal to heed the king's call has no just cause. Salma recalls his conversation with Hakuya about Elfreden's neighbors, who are 4 neutrals and 1 hostile. He wonders if that's them due to their termination of the mercenary contract, but Hakuya denies it. Turgis in winter would be frozen, so they usually head north, so if they don't give them a chance, Turgis won't do anything hostile against them. Halbert is sure that Jorg has something in mind, and Keed questions whether he will join him even though he doesn't know what he plans. Halbert states that many noblemen already joined him with their armies, but Keed states that only because their injustice was exposed by the king and their property was confiscated. Salma joins the conversation, asking why she is thinking that way. Keed states that the critical things when leading an army are the quality of soldiers and supplies, which is also the same for a nation. He asks Halbert if he forgot his face, and he realizes that joining Jorg means he and Keed would be enemies and could find themselves on the battlefield. He then thinks about what he desires and for whom. Outside, Aisha falls asleep, and Lycia asks Salma if he tried to change Halbert's mind, and Salma states he just told him the truth of his path. Lycia offers Salma to lay his head on her lap as this is a date, and he agrees. Salma states he would rather marry for love than be a king, and Aisha asks him how long she must keep pretending to be asleep, embarrassing both of them. Salma demonstrates his ability to use living poltergeist on 4 objects. He meets Glaive Magna, head of the Magna family, Halbert, and Keed, who request an audience. Glaive apologizes for his son's misconduct and asks for forgiveness. Salma agrees and plans to punish him more when they return. He orders Keed to work under Ludwin Arx in the Royal Guard as a staff officer. Keed is surprised but agrees with Salma's decision. Halbert is transferred from the army to the Forbidden Army and becomes Keed's adjutant. Glaive requests that the room be cleared before discussing something. Lycia invites Keed and Halbert to tea, and the maid Serena questions how a young man and woman can strengthen their friendship. Keed explains, but Lycia doesn't take Serena seriously. Glaive tells Salma about his intentions but doesn't expect anything from Salma. Salma finds the news heavy and contemplates it. Salma joins an adventurer's party and uses little Musashibo to defeat monsters. They encounter an unexpectedly large salamander, which Salma manages to protect with his body. Later, Salma washes Musashibo and realizes he is the mascot adventurer she has been hearing about. He later reveals that he was asked to make him a new model and has been controlling him with his magic. Salma has his men gathered and thanks them for their sleepless nights and hard work as they move forward with Project Venetanova, which aims to be the biggest bay city in the country. They already have Lagoon City in the Walter Duchy as their primary port. They discuss the importance of better distribution and the need to control both maritime and overland shipping and distribution. Salma explains that the most desired item is food, which is squeezing household budgets and causing the nation's economy to stagnate. He flatters his men, telling them that their work is more important than that of a hero on a battlefield and that he will remember their deed for the rest of his life. Salma goes to the future site of Venet Nova and meets Ludwin Arx. He wonders why the land remained unused, and Ludwin informs him that there are people opposing the construction of a town on the land, led by Europe. They believe that when houses are built there, a large monster comes out of the sea and swallows them whole. Salma discusses the situation with Europe and believes that there is no monster but a tale warning people not to build houses there due to the risk of a tsunami. Salma decides to continue with the project, but changes the city's location to avoid the risk of future tsunamis. He also warns people to evacuate quickly in case of an earthquake. Lycia wonders if Aisha likes Salma and encourages her to support him. The roads constructed by the Forbidden Army help create supply lines and reduce prices due to the limited non-water magic available on the sea. Halbert and other men from the Forbidden Army help construct roads, which are made of a mixture of volcanic ash and lime, known as Roman concrete. The roads are designed to make supply lines easier and eliminate imbalances in supply and demand. Salma is introduced to the construction process, explaining how they were made to provide light when it gets dark. Aisha receives a message from her father, the chief of the Dark Elves, about a landslide that swallowed half the village and left many still missing. Salma orders Lycia to return to the capital, request a rescue party, and send relief supplies to the Dark Elves. They arrive at Aisha's village and meet her father, Wadden Udgard, who has brought 50 men and more will come soon. Wadden explains where the landslide occurred and that there are already over 100 dead, with around 40 still missing. Salma requests a list of the missing people and instructs them to watch the mountain for movements or strange noises to avoid getting caught in a second landslide. Salma instructs the Forbidden Army to listen to the voices in the dirt and evacuate even if they see a second slide. He hears a voice under a large trunk and tells Halbert to come and help. Halbert is surprised to find someone under the trunk, a wooden mouse controlled by Salma. As he explains, one of his mice had found some horrible mangled bodies. Salma and Wadden confirm that all missing people have been found, although some are already dead. Aisha informs Salma that Lycia and the relief unit have arrived, but Ropther Udgard states it's too late. Salma states that there are many things left to do, including tending to the wounded and building temporary houses. However, Ropther believes that thinning the forest would have helped decrease the chances of landslides and could have helped people notice signs of upcoming landslides. Aisha also shares that Ropther was against thinning the forest and wonders if it would have prevented the incident. Salma is unsure, but he believes it would have helped decrease the chances of landslides and allowed them to better prepare for emergencies. As they leave, Salma admits that he was unable to do anything as he was occupied with food shortages and the 3 dukedoms. As the king, his job is not to direct things on site but to make preparations before emergencies occur. Juna visits Salma, who is struggling with sleep. She encourages him to lie down and reassures him that he will be the one concealing his weakness. The 3 dukes meet in Randall, where they discuss the situation and the importance of addressing Salma's weaknesses. Excel Walter wonders if he still believes in rebelling against the king, but she prioritizes the safety of Lagoon City. Jorg Carmine, the king's patriotism and loyalty, believes Salma cannot govern the kingdom. He casts aside history, traditions, soldiers, and even ministers without considering them. George Carmine is against the king, stating that he determined Salma could not govern the kingdom. He is obsessed with taking the throne and severing ties with his family. In Amidonia, Gaius Amidonia receives a letter from Jorg, accepting his offer. He informs his son, Julius Amidonia, that they will send reinforcements to the king and the dukes against the king. Varroa Amidonia wonders what to do with her father and brother, as sending reinforcements will weaken their country even more. Hakuya informs Salma that they will have a plentiful harvest, and they can consider the food issue solved. Salma realizes he has to go through it and recalls Machiavelli's quote from the prince. In Amidonia, Gaius prepares his troops for invasion, but Colbert asks him to reconsider, stating that if they invade Elfriden, Amidonia will be open to attacks by other countries. Gaius, however, stands between his father and Colbert, stating that any change in territory due to conflict between mankind won't be recognized. Gaius tells Colbert he is no longer the finance minister, and they are going out of sight. Salma issues an ultimatum to the 3 dukes, stating that if they disobey him, they will be considered traitors. Salma promises to incorporate their armies into the Forbidden Army and form a united force to prevent oppression against any race. However, their neighbors are ready to attack them, and a military with multiple command structures is futile in times of strife. Salma also discusses the new city he is building and the fate of Lagoon City. Salma asks Castor to reconsider his role as king, but he cannot. Castor agrees to join Jorg, with one Red Dragon City Knights joining him while the remaining Air Force remains neutral. Salma's proposal is to establish a rule that forces those under their command to switch sides if they kill or capture another. Salma apologizes to Castor for not convincing him, but she states it was his decision. Salma asks if Juna is present, and Juna shows up. Salma thanks her connections and agrees to fight against Castor. Excel reveals she had her eye on Salma's fitness to be king, but he is fine with it as it led to them joining his side. Hakuya informs Salma of the 30,000 troops from Amidonia invading through the Ursula mountain pass and likely to occupy the city of Altamira. Gaius Amidonia tells him that Altamira won't be fighting back in hopes of mercy but wishes to wait before opening their gates. The Forbidden Army is 10,000 and Jorg Carmine is 40,000, so he is sure that Salma won't be able to send help. Salma mobilizes the Forbidden Army and builds a fortress near Randall Castle, where Halbert Magna and Keed Foxia are currently fighting the enemy. They use magic and materials prepared earlier to build the fortress quickly and protect it from magic and fire attacks. However, the enemy brings out cannons, damaging the fortress. Sir, a dark elf, shoots at the cannons before they hit the walls. Sir feels annoyed, as she wants to become part of the Forbidden Army when she grows up. Ludwin leads a cavalry outside the fortress, focusing only on destroying the cannons. The corrupt aristocrats complain to Jorg that his army is weak, but he assures them that they are 4-to-1 in size and won't lose. He comments that they foolishly did that and lost the cannons. Jorg is sure that Salma is not in the fortress, but he needs to lure him in. Gaius loses his patience and decides to attack Altamira, but he hears men yelling from the fortress. Weist apologizes and asks him not to attack until noon the next day to give him time to convince the men. With Julius' approval, Gaius agrees. Inside Altamira's fortress, Weist wonders if this was the correct choice, as with that amount of gold, they could have hired mercenaries from Zem. Excel Walter states that mercenaries are driven by money and can change sides, and if Salma can't come until noon, they will die as heroes inside the fortress. The next day, Keed notices that Jorg's army is smaller and guesses they are expecting the battle to continue longer, making defending the fortress easier. Halbert is informed of approaching wyverns from Castor's Air Force army. The night before, Tallman informs Castor Vargas that the citizens have been evacuated and that there are only Air Force personnel in the Vargas household left. Castor doesn't believe it, as it would be smart to first defeat him and then take the Air Force to attack Jorg. Carla Vargas informs Castor that a single ship led by Salma is spotted, the battleship Albert, which now has wheels and is pulled on land by beasts. As the ships attack the castle, Salma contacts Castor, offering to change his mind. Carla leads the Wyvern Knights, preparing to bomb the ship cannons, but Salma uses bolt throwers, surprising them as usually bolt throwers are fixed-base defensive weapons used for defending bases. One soldier suggests attacking the wheels, as they are improvised and must be weak. Carla starts to believe she should have changed her father's mind and joined Salma, but as it's too late now, she orders the knights to go lower and attack the wheels. They succeed and destroy the cannons, but realize there are no soldiers on the ship and an armored man with a puppet arm is using the cannons. Carla orders the knights to return to the castle as quickly as possible, realizing that Salma lured them away from it, as his objective is Castor. Salma successfully infiltrates the Red Dragon City using blueprints. Castor Vargas reintroduces himself to Salma and reveals that he knows about underground escape routes and other secrets. They reintroduce themselves, with Tallman entrusting the Air Force to him if he ends up defeated. Aisha engages him to protect the king. Salma uses his Musashibo to surprise Castor and block his attack. Lycia, who is inside the puppet, freezes Castor and reveals that she wishes Salma to be the king if her father decides to take the throne back. The battleship explodes, and Salma realizes that the Air Force will be returning soon. Lycia takes out a slave collar, explaining that if he tries to harm him, the collar will tighten and cut his head. Castor accepts the collar, and Carla returns and sees her father defeated. Salma grants Tallman a temporary commission as Air Force General and orders him to join the Forbidden Army. Tallman agrees but wonders what will happen to Castor and Carla. Carla refuses to plead for her life, as Salma had sent letters requesting their assistance, but they rejected them. Near Randall Castle, Halbert and Keed notice the incoming Air Force and decide not to attack the residential sections. Salma joins Halbert and Keed. The corrupted nobles meet with Jorg Carmine, who claims the Air Force betrayed them and wonders what to do. Beowulf Gardner reports that the army has taken the people of the city as hostages, which angers Jorg, who questions their proposal. Jorg places slave collars on the nobles and sends a message of surrender, stating that he takes full responsibility for the soldiers' actions. Jorg takes out a bottle of wine gifted to him by King Albert, which he regrets not being able to see. Beowulf informs Jorg that Salma is heading west with the Forbidden Army and orders his army to follow them when they regroup. Jorg realizes Salma is going for a bigger fish and celebrates accepting the king. Carla is uncertain about the situation, but Salma explains that Jorg had arranged the attack. Jorg intends to gather all the corrupt nobles, stage a rebellion, and have the king stamp them out. Salma, however, is unsure of what to expect from him as he has taken their property and assets. At Altamura, Gaius Amidonia sees the time he set for Weist is up but notices Excel Walter standing on the wall. Julius realizes this is a trap and they must retreat. Excel creates a large screen with her water magic, broadcasting a message to the whole country that Duke Castor and Jorg have been defeated and the civil war is over. However, Amidonia invades their territory to take their land from generations ago. The current king, Gaius, promotes friction between Salma and the three dukedoms and declares war against Amidonia. Salma is sure that Gaius is watching and plans to burn down Van while he is dawdling around at Altamura. Roroa Amidonia receives news about Gaius returning to Van, believing he didn't return unharmed. Gatsby Colbert confirms that 30,000 entered the valley but only 15,000 left it. Gaius gathers soldiers and provisions from surrounding villages and increases their numbers to 25,000. Roroa warns that turning the people against him could lead to a rebellion. Gaius sees all of the Elfriden flags outside Van and guesses they have fallen, but Julius points out that they haven't. Gaius orders his army to attack the enemy, but Salma stays behind. Carla Vargas notices Salma's mind is elsewhere, and he realizes he may be a charlatan. He realizes that he can't send soldiers onto the battlefield unless he becomes a full king. Gaius tells Julius to exit the battle, but the battle is lost due to Gaius making a mistake and sending his exhausted soldiers right into battle. Julius wishes for Gaius to escape too, but Gaius explains that Elfriden wants his head and he can't escape. Salma hears Gaius coming right at him and tells Carla that he is re-imprinting her Caller's master on Lycia. Carla finds it ridiculous and orders her to defeat Gaius instead. Ludwin heads for Gaius and strikes him down, but he realizes he is a double. Carla engages Gaius in a battle, but he pushes her to her knees. Salma's Musashibo then comes and engages Gaius, but Gaius pushes him back. Salma reveals himself and Gaius heads for him, but Musashibo jumps on Gaius and holds him. Salma tells Carla to ignite Musashibo, and she fires him up, causing him to burst. As the smog clears, the top of Gaius' armor is revealed to have blown up, but he still stands. Salma announces that he witnessed the backbone of Amidonia and that the valor of Gaius will be spoken of for many years to come. Later, Roroa learns about her father's death and cries, stating that he was dumb right to the end. At Van's castle, Lycia comments on the nicely built castle and how they could have used the money elsewhere. She realizes that Salma planned to take over Amidonia for quite some time, but she is impressed that they had so few casualties near the border. Salma explains that Hakuya vetoed his proposal to evacuate the villagers, as that would make Amidonia realize Elfriden is aware of them. Salma had hired adventurers to protect refugees from the village from mysterious monsters called flame pirates, which was actually a mission to get the villagers to safety. Ludwin reports that Julius fled west, and the princess had left the town before that with the finance minister and some key officials. Salma tells him to contact Parnam and ask Hakuya to send some bureaucrats. Poncho reports on Amidonia's treasury, explaining that they had scant capital and food but had an abundance of weapons. Salma tells him to sell the weapons to raise funds and ration the food until things calm down. Glaive reports that the soldiers are in good spirits and can conquer all of Amidonia. However, Salma explains that they are not taking any more territory outside of Van and won't be fighting. Lycia thinks they should beat down the enemy, but Salma believes they will not be able to do so due to the declaration Amidonia signed. Salma decides not to sign the declaration, as there is a catch that could break up the empire in the future. Salma calls Juna Dama to proceed with his next plan, Project Lorelei. News of the Elfriden broadcast is made across Van, and they proceed with an entertainment program. Salma makes Aisha dress up as a hostess, and they introduce their first musical program. Margarita Wonder sings Amidonia's national anthem, demanding the return of the land from Elfriden. Margarita wonders why Salma can kill her, but she explains that there is no law in Elfriden that forbids singing other countries' songs. Thank you for watching till the end, and please don't forget to subscribe.